I'm Dr. Mitchell Gent, anti-aging specialist, regenerative medicine, international lecturer, and author of 3 textbooks on regenerative anti-aging medicine. You know, I've been asked recently by a woman 39 years old, oh my gosh, 40's coming, and I am freaking out, and I don't know what to do. Is it over? Well, I have to tell you something. 40 years old is sort of the teeter-totter age. Things are going to go downhill if you do not take and do some effort to keep your cells healthy. They find actually if you've had no serious events up until age 65, your chances of living to 80 are more than 85%. So, whatever we do in the 30s and 40s and 50s will make a big difference as to how our older years are going to do. I keep remembering the first time I got my AARP, joined the membership of AARP, and I said, I'm sending this back. I put on the return to sender. That's not me, because I figured I don't think like that. But yet, it would be very nice to be able to feel young and still be older. So what does a woman do when she's in her late 30s, perhaps early 40s, and wants to do something to stay healthy? The first thing to do is to try to find out exactly what's going on within the body, what's happening within the cell. Let me give you some examples. First, you do a barrage of blood testing that looks at certain aspects. Now, it's unlike the way you normally go to your conventional physician who looks and says, oh, it's in the normal range, good enough. Very different for someone like myself. I'm looking for an optimal. I give you an example. A blood sugar, according to most laboratories, is still normal if it's 100 or less. For someone like myself, I'm looking for 85 or less because I'm looking for optimal cellular functioning. Now, we're doing that with many of the tests, and we're looking very closely to the things that cause chronic disease. One of them, for example, is inflammation. So we're looking at things like C-reactive protein, fibrinogen levels. These are tests that are simple blood tests that can be drawn all at one time that can give you information as to whether or not there's already ongoing inflammation. Whether you're aware or not, most cancer is secondary to ongoing chronic inflammation. So if we can stop that or quell that early on, we're going to probably stop a lot of these diseases that we don't want to have. And by the way, most cancers, solid tumors, start to occur or begin 20 to 30 years before they're recognizable or picked up by your family or physician. Well, there's other things that we can do. We do something called functional tests. As the medical director of an advanced diagnostic laboratory that does functional tests, we look at things like oxidative stress. I know you've heard this before, and you probably wonder, what does that mean? Oxidative stress basically means that you're rusting, so to speak, from the inside. If you see a metal railing, sometimes rust as the oxygen keeps hitting it over time. We're no different. There's a certain amount of oxygen, but there's something called a free radical that is created by every time you eat, the things in the air, and these free radicals are not throwbacks from the 1960 hippies for sure. Free radicals, by definition, is any substance that has a free electron in its outer orbit. And what they do is they look for a mate. And sometimes they look for a mate by attacking tissue in our body, like pancreas, or colon, or perhaps stomach, etc., prostate, or in females for sure, the breast. So we can test to see if we have too much or too little of them. Too many is dangerous. Too little is just as dangerous because free radicals participate in making sure that we kill bacteria and fungus and viruses in our body. So you hear that there's a balance that we have to always look for, and we test for them as well. Some of the other tests that we do is look for example, heavy metals. We may have been exposed to mercury or cadmium or aluminum or anything that might have been in the air. And believe it or not, it comes from amalgam filler, eating out of aluminum cans, the oil-based mascara, which is high in mercury. You cannot believe how many substances and products we use in everyday life that actually create heavy metals in our body. Now, that's just one thing. But think of all the things that can create problems with the cell. And that's the physiological or functional testing that a 39-year-old should be looking at. I give you family. What do I mean by family? Well, I use that acronym often to teach people to think about the things that we are exposed to that can damage the cell. F is in family for food, foodstuff, dyes that are in the food, preservatives. All of these can affect the cells negatively. A for allergens, things that you might be allergic to. Acid-base balance, and that's an interesting topic. You may not be aware that the body has a significant predilection to handle acid every time you eat. An example is when you eat food, you have exactly 20 minutes to neutralize the acid in that food, or you won't be here. So the body tries to neutralize it, and when we eat too much of the acidic foods, like, of course, all the coffee we have, and all the white flour, and the white sugar, and all the things like soda, which are very high in acid, the body can't neutralize it fast enough. And it robs the body in the bones, so people, and then they get osteoporosis. It robs the inside of the cell, so they end up losing the zinc and the phosphorus, the magnesium. They come out of the cell to neutralize it, and they're important, because they're involved in over 300 other reactions simultaneously in your body, and so forth. How about the M? Metals, for heavy metals. Medicine. Everything that you take is synthetic when you take a medicine. And the average 65-year-old or older has had more than 32 different prescriptions in any given year. You know those people that are taking 5 or 6 medicine like they're dipped in a pharmacy. I sometimes tell those patients it's cheaper to become a pharmacist, go back to school, and buy yourself a pharmacy. But all kidding aside, those medicines are recognized by the body as foreign. Certainly, they're not seen as something the body requires to help it fix itself. But vitamins, nutrients, amino acids, of course. Well, what's the next letter? I, ionizing radiation. Did you ever think that all the cell phone usage that you have up to your ear doesn't do some damage? Well, the German studies show that even 20 minutes on a cell phone raises your blood sugar, high blood pressure, causes high blood pressure. Number 2, what it does is it takes away a very important hormone that's produced every night when you go to bed. It's called melatonin. And melatonin is what allows you to sleep. But it has one other very important thing, and that is it is important to help the immune system to prevent you from getting cancer. People that have low melatonin often have the highest breast cancer rate. So think of all the cell phone usage may be actually being detrimental to your immune system as well. L, well, that's live organisms. Believe it or not, we live in a bacterial world, not the reverse. As a matter of fact, in our gut, or our colon, we have more than 500 species of bacteria. 500 species, and only some of them are good. But what happens is the good balance the bad. So if you take antibiotics, or have had some medication that might upset that balance, you could literally upset your immune system. Do you realize that 60% of your lymph nodes, which is part of your immune system, is in the gut? And I have something interesting that you should be aware of as well. Drinking chlorinated water, or city water, most of them are fluoridated, actually kills the good bacteria in your gut. So if you're not taking what we call the probiotics, or the good microbacteria or microflora, theoretically, you have this disbalance. And the last thing of the Y of family is your genetics. And everyone thinks, oh, I have bad genes, it's going to happen to me anyway, it's all a problem. Forget that. I mean, just forget it. Because genes are only responsible for about 14% of the problems that we have, and in certain cases, it's been suggested only 4 to 5%. Because the DNA really requires what we call the epigenome to tell the DNA when to either produce or not to produce a protein. Be surprised that if you take care of this epigenome or the epigenetics that we speak of, that you will find that the genes that are supposed to produce a problem may not. I mean, think about it. You know people that have certain predilection to having a certain disease and then don't get it? How come some do and some don't? Why can't you be the one that don't get anything? So if you look at the family of things that may be causing a problem, do the testing for these type of things, and then prescribe an individualized program for that person, guess what? At 39, it's not so terrible to wake up when you're 40. Actually, you look forward to your 50s, 60s, and 70s. The key word is bioavailable and bioidentical. We're very, very different. No matter how much we believe that we are the same individually, we vary vastly between each other. Take a guess, while listening to me, how many different reactions we have in a given day. Take a wild guess. Go ahead. I'm waiting. Well, if you said 1 million or 1 trillion, you're not even close. Actually, we have 868 trillion reactions per second. More to come.